Erev Tov Rosh Pina. Good morning in Santa Fe. Greetings to friends near and far. It's Memorial Day weekend in the United States, and we are here with you with what we must call Culture Week at the America-Israel Friendship League. My name is Wayne Firestone, and my colleagues have been just giddy with exposing people to the arts. What a greater present can you come up with for beginning the summer with art outdoors, out indoors, art in your head, art on the stage, everywhere and anywhere you can find it. We are so excited to be a part of that and to have you joining with us today. Look, we know it's Memorial Day here in the United States, and so I just want to give an opportunity for anyone who wants to remember someone in their family or in history or in any way to make the holiday meaningful for you. If you want to honor someone's memory or their service, please put, mention their name or a little anecdote or whatever you want in the chat. It's a community building opportunity. Even as we celebrate, we have people from all over the world. I just see someone popping in from Toronto. I saw someone in Florida. That's not another country, but it is actually where I am physically at the moment. So we know that we'll have people from all corners of the world. And I'm just tickled to have an old friend and colleague and culture lover with me today to sort of introduce this segment. Elise Bernhardt, I met, 100 years ago, when she was the CEO of the Foundation for Jewish Culture, and really recognized that there are just incredible inspirations and inspirational people all around us, and how that really can inspire and create a better world. No matter what language you're sharing that in, or with no language at all. Elise had a kernel of an idea way back then that there needed to be some way to share the culture and the beauties of the Jewish world, and in particular Jerusalem, with the rest of the world. So she created this residency program, and lo and behold, years and years have passed, and this program, with pandemics, without pandemics, with funding for Jewish arts, with no funding for Jewish arts, with a need to recognize that we all need to take a breath now and then and let the artists do the speaking for us and introduce us to a world that we may be covering with our hands, covering our eyes with our hands. Elise has done that for so many and for so many years. It's truly a privilege for me to be working with her now in this capacity on our webinar and introducing a very special program that she has both birthed and now leads, the Jerusalem International Fellows, which brings artists to Jerusalem for a residency, not just in a monastery, but actually alive with the sights, sounds, smells, blemishes, contradictions, excitements, history that Jerusalem speaks to. And so, Elise, welcome. I sort of feel like welcome back to our conversation, but welcome back to our conversation with thousands of people who will be listening in both live today and then in our YouTube recording that we'll share with everyone for free, as we always do, because we believe that the culture that represents the Israeli people today is something that needs to be shared, needs to be known, needs to be celebrated. You've known that for a long time. Tell us today about the Jerusalem International Fellows and what's going on in your creative mind as we introduce this incredible partnership that you helped create.
Thank you, Wayne. So, yeah, Wayne and I met not quite thousands of years ago. As they say in Jerusalem, things sometimes take thousands of years. This was a little shorter, and immediately knew that he was amongst the people who really appreciated what culture brings to civilization and how we can't really live without it. And before I was at the Foundation for Jewish Culture, I directed other arts organizations and spent a lot of time producing performances in public spaces. And I think that background, falling in love with cities, is something that I always did. And I first went to Jerusalem in 2004, having not been there for a lot of years. And I was fortunate in being taken to sort of the back end of the city. And I met all kinds of artists and producers and creators who were working in little studios in Talpiot and sort of unknown little places. And I was like, oh my God, these are my people. And no one knows. They all think that all the arts are happening in Tel Aviv. But indeed, Jerusalem has more art schools than anywhere in the country. And I dare say it's maybe not comparable to New York, but in a lot of cities, you don't have that concentration of creative energy in many other places. So if you begin to think about Jerusalem as not just a place of old stones and old history and a lot of conflict, and you start to think of the creative energy, and in particular, what inspired me was it's really hard to be in Jerusalem. It's really difficult for all kinds of reasons. As we would say, I'll get to the fellowship in a minute, but we would end every day by saying it's complicated. So to me, the people who are running organizations in one of the poorest cities in Israel are really heroes. They inspire me. I just came back from a very short visit to Jerusalem to gear up for the next residency. And all the people I met, both the people I know and the people who I was meeting for the first time, they exude this, we are going on. The situation may be horrible, but we are continuing to do our work. So that's really what got me started. I was at the Foundation for Jewish Culture. I realized that most of the great work that I was seeing in the visual arts, in the dance world, in film, was coming out of Israel. And so I thought, how does the foundation start to incorporate the work of Israeli artists in some way? And I won't go through all of the history, but I was invited to bring a few artists in 2010 to a conference at Mishkanot. Those 3 artists include an urban planner, a painter, and a choreographer, had an extraordinary time. They got to see Jerusalem from 360. One of my favorite moments was that they went on a tour of Palestinian and Israeli planners talking about what to do with the Kidron Valley, how to find a way to make water and ecology a bridge. So it seemed to me that this was a way to bridge a lot of divides, or as one person called it, cultural diplomacy. So we started what we called the American Academy in Jerusalem, named after the academies in Rome and Berlin, but actually not like them at all. If anybody knows the c.a.t.a.m.o.n residency, you get to live in a cabin and they bring you lunch, and maybe once in a month you get to see this is the opposite of that. This is a 10-week residency that is absolutely focused on engagement and making relationships. And I think you will see how just talking to Claudia and Elad and how their relationship has continued is one of the really big goals of our program. So we did this in 2011 and 2013 under the auspices of the foundation. The foundation then sunset, and I distributed all of the, how should we call them? I gave all the children, the programs, to other organizations, and this one kind of became my baby. And it's taken, well, it was like 6 years of going back and forth and meeting people. And I should say that my fellows in 2013 all said to me, it's really important that we are working in East and West Jerusalem. And I have to say, all those years of going back and forth really paid off, because you have to make relationships of trust before you can start to do that. So I like to say, well, we had our fellows chosen, and Claudia Viba Galhotra from India, Anna Lublina, you're looking at the picture, Anna Lublina from the United States by way of Germany. There's Claudia, and then Sofia Borges from Sao Paulo. They had been chosen in 2020, like in May of 2020, right? So I just have to say how Zoom became a really important tool, and we got to know each other ahead of time, which was actually a gift because we Zoomed every once in a while and we discussed things. But the fact that these incredible artists who have really extraordinary careers, not just in their home cities, but around the world, they stuck with it. And so there's 8 years of planning. And then you couldn't get into Israel. And then on December 15th, I got into Israel. I met with all our host organizations, which I will come back around to. And I said, do you remember this, Elad? I said, I don't know, you guys, can we do this? Because there was just one window when I could get all 4 of them together. Let me talk about the host organizations because it is absolutely intrinsic to the structure of this residency. Instead of artists coming from some part of the world, having no idea what this country or this city was like, we decided to start with organizations on the ground who know the city and know the people and know the situation, and invite them to be part of this network and ask them to host an artist. And they were part of the selection process, and which was, I won't go into the funnel effect, but it was pretty, it takes months, really. It starts with nominations, and artists are invited actually to talk to the different host organizations to see, I call this the dating game. Like, do they really fit together? Do they really, are they on the same wavelength? Are their interests aligned? So that's like a really big part of this. And where we ended up was that Sophia worked with the IBDA School of the Arts, which is the first school of the arts in East Jerusalem. They just finished their first graduating class, I think after 8 years. It's an extraordinary place in Schechter. Anna worked with the Bloomfield Science Museum. Vibha worked with Muslala, which is an extraordinary environmentally focused organization. And I say to everybody, if you have never been to the rooftop of Muslala, don't go anywhere else. It is like one of the great gems of the city. It's right next to the Machane Yehuda market. I could talk more about some of those projects, but I really want to give this over to Claudia and Elad to talk about their own experience of the residency.
Elise, thanks so much for setting the stage for us. It's indeed really amazing what you've created here, this opportunity. Claudia Lavista, in 2020, you thought you might be going to your next country. You're a choreographer. You have a degree in dance pedagogy at a time where people need to learn how to move, how to understand their movement, how to see themselves in a world with lots of fissures, lots of sudden changes. And then this doesn't get to be an immediate performance or immediate creative opportunity for you. You have to wait and wait and wait. Tell us about what your expectations were when you thought you were coming to Israel, and then ultimately when you did arrive, what this has given you as an opportunity, as an artist, as a teacher, as a choreographer. And then a little bit later, we're going to show a segment after you have a chance to give us a little bit of the framing for it. But tell us about what it meant to you once that dream was sort of deferred, and then you were actually able to realize the dream and create something from this opportunity.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Good morning. It's such a gift to be here with you all. So yes, it took months to know that I was going, because there were, like, I think 50 artists from 15 countries. that's supposed to be chosen. I mean, the jury had a huge work choosing just 4. So it was a really big surprise, and it was a very happy one. And actually, yes, I did have a meeting with Elad, like at the beginning of all this process, right? And so for me, actually, dance is not only about making choreography and presenting my work in different countries and all of that, but really, truly, and I mean truly, it is the way I feel we should all get connected. Like I feel that movement, it's a network, it's a fascia, it's a net. It's something like movement, it's something that connects people no matter what, no matter where. Like if you go to any country, there's going to be all kinds of different dance in there, but it's really a bridge for me. So I was really curious, and I was really looking forward to create new bridges, just that. With that, I didn't know anything. Like I of course, I knew about the history in Israel, of course, and about the dance, because the dance is very famous all over, I mean, in all the globe, and in Mexico as well. But one thing that was very interesting for me is that coming from such an old culture myself, because I'm Mexican, so I'm coming from the Mayas and the Aztecs, you know, I was very appealed to go to Jerusalem and experience also this time frame, so long, like the time expanding, it's such a big, you know, expression of time. And I also was very interested on the fact to live in that place for 3 months, and it wasn't easy. And Elise knows this. It wasn't, for many different reasons, it wasn't easy, but it was such an amazing experience, not only through dance, like with Elad and also with the other 3 fellows, and the relationship in the house that we all share, because we were living in the same house, which was quite crazy, in a beautiful place. In Elise was the name of the street where we were. So we were right in front of the old city and right next to the Arab part of the city, and we were in the middle of this ultra Orthodox neighborhood. So you know, we were in the middle of the world. Like I felt that I was in the center of the world, and
They were
everything
in
was
Musrara, just for people
Musrara.
to know. They were in Musrara, so 5 minutes from everywhere.
Yes. And so it was like being in the belly bottom of the world, in the belly bottom of the conflict, in the belly bottom of the beginning of everything. Like, and you felt that for the first month, I felt that everything was trembling under my feet. And I myself, I was also trembling. So anyway, lucky for me, Elad was my best friend and my host. And so I feel that right away, like in the first day, like in the first dinner, he invited me to have a dinner in this beautiful vegetarian restaurant. The first night, I was like, this is gonna be great. Like, I know there's a person here that I really like. I want to be her friend. I want to know more about him and his work, and I want to collaborate with him in any way. Like, we will see how it works. So he proposed me one project that we will show in a few minutes. And then I proposed him one thing that I wanted to do. And then from there, magic happens.
Well, I think magic and collaboration are certainly the frameworks here, because I'm so excited to be sharing these 2 pieces. We're just showing segments, just so everyone is clear. If you want to fully experience these, we'll need to make sure you have a ample opportunity, hopefully live someday, but certainly today, in order to get a feel and an introduction to what it means for what Elise talks about as cultural diplomacy, let's say, what that looks like when a Mexican dancer living in a house in a section in Jerusalem, interacting with other artists from around the world, experiencing Jerusalem for the first time. What is possible, the ancient, the modern, the contemporary, the whimsical, all of those different elements which might inspire an artist to then think about what that looks like in an artistic work. I am so excited to share both pieces. They're extremely different, and you'll get a sense of that once we show them. But I'm actually going to start with the one that I think is more unexpected for people when they come to Jerusalem. They think about artists doing their work and creating dancing in places where who knows, in the period of the Romans, we can imagine what kind of dancing was taking place in front of Herod. In the contemporary period, there are modern Israelis living and going about their life and you know, sort of relating to this in a very modern way. There are tourists that are walking through on the same stones. It reminds me of that c.a.t.a.m.o.n poem about tourists coming through. And so Claudia arrives as both tourist and artist and meets Elad, and they come up with this idea. All I'm going to tell you is the name of it, because it's a play on words in English. It's called Encounter. So we will now see what that looks like as an encounter. Oh, you know, like it just tugs at your heart in every way. Claudia, I see a big smile on your face. Just how does it feel, you know, sort of looking at the piece now with some time, you know, in seeing, does it feel like it captures something that a part of this connection that you made that is going to live on, you know, well beyond your own trip memories?
Oh yeah, sure. So it was a really fun process actually to create that piece, and Elad will talk more about the whole like background or concept about this. But it was really, really nice because we get a chance to be in that beautiful bar. We worked there. We created the piece there. There was no way to create this piece on the, dance room and then bring it here. So when you do site-specific work, which is something that Elad and I love to do. I do a lot of site-specific work myself as well. You need to be in the place to capture the poetry of the place. And then with that poetry of the architectural thing and the subtext of the place, then you can create something. And then again, magic starts to happen when you put the dots together. So yeah, we had a lot of fun, and we worked with this amazing cello player and these two beautiful dancers, which, Elad introduced me to these dancers. And then Julia, the female dancer, ended up working also in the video dance that you will see later. So it was a beautiful way of experiencing the culture also there. And I just want to say something. So I feel that the same way that I wanted to experience the Israeli culture or the Jerusalemic culture, I also wanted to bring my Mexicanity into the game. So I also wanted to bring Mexico into Jerusalem in a different way, not only with the pilgrims that go everywhere, like every year, but in a different way, like the contemporary Mexico as well. Because we do have the same as in Jerusalem. Everyone goes to Jerusalem expecting from the old culture, right? But there's contemporary art. And it's the same in Mexico. Everyone expects to see us with feathers, and dancing with tambourines, which we do. But there's another side of the country, which is the contemporary country. And in a way, that's what I also wanted to bring to this whole universe of the fellowship.
Well, that is, a lot of things have blossomed from this, and we're going to talk about that shortly. Let me bring Elad Schechter into the conversation now. Elad, you were asked to be a host for a visiting artist, and you got to be, a lot of, you had a lot of leeway in terms of what you might show a visitor, a guest, a tourist, and I'm so excited by that. And yet, at the same time, as a professional dancer, as someone who founded c.a.t.a.m.o.n dance company, you come from a real long tradition in the short 75-year history plus of the state of Israel. There's a lot of dance going on in Israel, and I remember when I first stepped foot in Carmiel and had a meeting with a high-tech leader at the time. This goes back over 30 years. And they said, well, we can't do the meeting because I take off all those days of the Carmiel Dance Festival. It doesn't matter what's going on in the high-tech world. Everyone knows I will be dancing on the tennis courts or in the city square in Carmiel. Can you give us a little bit, as you introduce yourself in the c.a.t.a.m.o.n company you founded, can you share with us a little bit about that legacy of Israel's dance that's in its DNA, in a sense?
Sure. First, I want to thank you for inviting me for this talk, and I'm very happy to be here. And I'm always happy to speak with Elise and with Claudia. So I think going back and thinking about Israeli dance and why, or thinking about the question why there is so much of dance in Israel, I think it comes back to the formation of the state of Israel, or the Zionistic idea, is that we brought, or the people who lived here 70 years ago, my parents, my grandparents, they brought a lot of people from many different places in the world. Some of them were more exhausted or less exhausted of their journeys in their countries, and they had to sort of create this melting pot and to kind of create a new identity that was not, because even Judaism, as you all know, has many different layers, many different performances of itself. So I think the melting pot, or the creating of the culture and creating of the Israeli culture in specific, brought also the notion of the body and how do we deal with the body, and how Judaism is actually giving interpretation for the experience of having a body and carrying a body throughout your years of life. And I think that this is something that is common for all cultures. And of course, in different ways, it gets different interpretations and different kind of notion of how we do that. I think in Israeli society and then in Israeli dance, it shows very clearly that there was a uniting or sort of a vision to create some kind of an understanding, a common ground to be able to dance from. So to be able to create this choreography that is called the Zionistic idea or the path of the state of Israel or the Jewish nation in the state of Israel, with all its flaws and gains, and of course we can discuss many about that. But I think that in a way, choreography and choreographers were revolutionary in the establishment of the state of Israel, in a way that they, you know, when David Ben-Gurion in 48, when he announced the establishment of Israel, the first thing everybody did was coming down to the squares and circles and starting to dance the hora. That's that was it. It was the manifestation of the coming and joining all together with different culture. And I think that this is a very strong basis to understand how contemporary dance has been developing in Israel, and how dance and the experience of the human body as a bridge between communities, as a bridge between cultures, is very strong. So I met Claudia. I mean, I met Elise, and Elise was sorry, Elise, but this crazy woman who has this crazy idea of bringing people from all over the world and putting them 10 weeks together in some kind of a social experiment, which was like, yeah, it was very, I mean, I loved it. I thought it was amazing. And then I remember, and sorry to go into details, but I remember talking to Claudia around beginning of March, just about 2-3 weeks before she came, and she was asking me, Elad, last thing, what should I pack in terms of clothing? And I told her, well, you come at the end of March, it's gonna be like sort of warm, and I'm walking in Jerusalem in my t-shirt at beginning of March. And I was like, yeah, it's gonna be sort of warm and it will be okay. They landed for the coldest in 100 years March we ever had. So 2 weeks later, there was snow, and the welcoming to Jerusalem was cold in all senses. And I think that when Elise is speaking about this, the experience of the artist, and when Claudia is speaking about this, yeah, it is a hard city. It is not it's not an easy place. There's a lot of conflict, and there's a lot of variety and different diversities that creates also a magical experience, but as well as difficulties and communication breaks, and things are some kind, like sometimes there are explosives and sometimes they are a bit more calm, but it all depends on a wave. And I think that most of the time it's not for us like humans in a way to understand the waves and the circles of it, but it is for us artists to sort of pave our way into it. And as Claudia was saying, our first meeting in real life, when we were sitting there and Claudia was speaking very emotionally about her grief and about her loss of her father. And I think that this is something that, first of all, touched me very deeply. And I think it touches everyone, because it's again this communal experiences that we have to sort of experience. And on today, this Memorial Day for the American people, it is also, it's another linkage that we can add to this talk. I shortly want to introduce c.a.t.a.m.o.n and what we do in the city, and then come back to what we did with Claudia maybe, and you will stop me, Wayne, if you think I'm talking too much.
I definitely give us a little bit on c.a.t.a.m.o.n now, and then we'll move into the next piece. So go ahead, because I think it's critical as you were describing that origins and the roots and the very deep essence of dance in modern Israel. We're going to get to ancient Israel in a moment. In modern Israel, what was it that sort of called you then to put your specific fingerprint on the dance scene with c.a.t.a.m.o.n?
Sure. So I was born and raised in Jerusalem, educated here. I graduated from the Jerusalem School of Arts, and I danced hora when I was younger. And I danced after that ballet and contemporary dance. And I, after having a 12-year career as a dancer, both in Europe, in Brussels, in New York, and coming back to Israel and dancing for choreographers and companies here, I decided to create my own work. And at that time, that was 10 years ago, there were very little opportunities for young emerging choreographers in the city, in Jerusalem. And my vision for creating a dance company as c.a.t.a.m.o.n was not to create just platform for my own work, but also to create a platform for other work in order to create a scene, in order to create a discourse around the human body and the relationship with Jerusalem being so special and so unique culturally. So 10 years ago, I established c.a.t.a.m.o.n Dance Group, and c.a.t.a.m.o.n is having 4 projects at the moment. The first project is a project-based company for my own creation. And then we have a festival that has been producing for the last 10 years site-specific performances in alternative spaces in Jerusalem with many different choreographers from the city and from around the country and sometimes international. That was based in Machne Yehuda market with all its complexities and all its richness. The third project that we started in 2016 is a cross-cultural collaborative effort between Montreal and Jerusalem that is called Interstices, out of the vision that dance in both cities, Jerusalem and Montreal, can create a bridge between communities in order to motivate and vehicle social change. And the fourth project that we started last year was a great experience. It was a pilot year, and it was great to host Claudia and to be funded by the Jerusalem Foundation for this project, which is called a Room Service. It's an interdisciplinary festival that is happening in hotel rooms. The pilot year was in the Brown chain hotel rooms, which has 4 hotels in Jerusalem. And what we did is we invited choreographers such as Claudia to create site-specific performances with a live music instrument. So no technical and really intimate work that brings all together. I remind you that we were just out of COVID at that moment, May 22. And the idea is to regain the closeness, the intimacy that dance and music can share in such a small space. And I think that it was fantastic project for us. You just saw a video of Claudia's work from that, and we're now heading towards another version in support.
Well, I love the name Room Service, and I love the that prototype that you've created from this collaboration with Claudia from the first segment. But I want to use that. I want to segue back now, Claudia, to the second piece or clip that we're going to show from your outcome of your collaboration with c.a.t.a.m.o.n and the other artists that you met through the fellowship. And this piece feels, if the first piece is very contemporary and in the moment of the lived experience for anyone in Jerusalem, the second piece feels very timeless. It feels very ethereal at times. It moves me out of my body at times with the kind of exploration you're doing. So can you share a little bit what your vision was with this piece and give us an idea of how it was to work on two such very different pieces or from this experience and what was calling you to write or develop such very different pieces?
Sure. So as Elad was saying, my dad passed in November 2021. So when I arrived to Jerusalem, it was just 3 months before. And I had a very, very close, and I still have a very close relationship with my father. He was a very important composer of contemporary music in Mexico. And I always work with him and collaborate with him. So I was grieving. It was a very, very strong, complicated period of time for me personally. And I knew I wanted to do something about that. So I started to think about the idea. And also, when you go to a place, you need time to process the place, and then something will emerge from that. So that's why I feel these 10 weeks, it's very important, because it's not only to get there and go to a museum for a couple of days, and then you're going to create a piece. You can't. So for me, it was a whole process of first processing where was I, and like speaking of Jerusalem, and then outside of me, and then processing where I was inside of me, and how can I relate those two realities happening at the same time in my body, and the grieving aspect. So I decided to create a video dance because I'm very interested on the video dance world. And my partner, Alexander Dam, he's a filmmaker. So I asked him if he would like to come to Jerusalem to work with me. And then I proposed this idea both to Elise and Elad, and they liked it. And I used my father's music, which is Ofrenda. That's the name of the piece, Ofrenda. And that's the name also of the video dance piece. And it was an amazing, amazing process, because we were trying to find the place. So this video dance is also a site-specific piece, because I filmed in the desert, in c.a.t.a.m.o.n, in the Tower of David. So that was really, really, really fantastic. Just to find the places was a whole journey for me, with the help of Elad, and also working with Julia Machkaya, which is the dancer you're seeing right now. And I use different symbols. So you will see the stone, and you will see a red thread. So the piece speaks about...
Why don't we hold for a minute and let's experience a little, and then we'll talk about it after.
Great.
Wow. Oh, that is so touching. And I don't know. I every time I look at it, I sort of feel both the grief and the redemption in just the short clip that we showed from this longer work. Claudia, please tell us a little bit about as you were starting to describe what you feel you accomplished, and what's sort of the legacy of this piece now for you personally as an artist.
Well, it definitely was a very personal piece. It is a very personal piece, but it was also a healing piece. You know, I feel that I heal a lot about the loss of my dad and the grief, and I also learned a lot about what it is to go inside to find the light. You know, and so and the stone. So one thing that struck me when I arrived to Jerusalem was that everything is made of a stone, and it's all the same stone, right? So stones are such a big part of the symbolism of the place, and also of the understanding of the land. And it was interesting because for Mexican culture, stone is also a huge, like the pyramids, right? Like there's so many things related to stone also in my country. Anyway, so I was thinking about how grieving is like a stone that you're carrying, right, in your back. And I was thinking about, what am I going to do with this stone? How am I going to survive with this heavy weight? So the whole piece speaks about the way this woman finds the way, and if you see the whole piece, you will find out how. But for me, so I mean, we can send you guys the link to see the full piece. It's only 8 minutes. Actually, we were close to the end, but she goes inside. She finds herself in this landscape, in this beautiful desert, and she finds the stone, and then she finds the stone. She takes out a little bit of her blood, her own blood, and she puts the stone around the blood, and then she finds water in the middle of the desert, and she decided to throw the stone in the water, and then she jumps herself inside of the water. You have to see all of this because it's beautiful to watch. And then she ends up understanding that the stone is always gonna be there, like it's gonna be there all her life, but it's gonna be floating. It's gonna be more like a companion. So that's what I feel now. My father is all the time with me, everywhere, in every project that I'm doing, since I was born, actually, pretty much. You know, and so his physical being is not here, but his essence and his spirit is with me all the time. So that was what I learned. But the fact that I was in Jerusalem, I feel that it was like a very central point of how I developed the piece. Like, I don't see this piece made anywhere else but there.
Wow. So Elise has done the courtesy of putting the link into the chat for those watching live. We can share it separately for those that aren't here live or want to request a copy of this program, as well as the full-length version. I just have to read a comment from Wendy, who says, "This exquisite journey of talent has me begging for more." And indeed, people, I think, want to see it. But Elad, you and Claudia, in a sense, begged for more in terms of your own collaboration. I understand you just came back from Mexico, and as a result of this collaboration, you know, we've been doing collaborations at AIFL for over 50 years, and it started with our flagship program that took young high school students from different parts of the United States to visit Israel, and then to reverse that, to go back and visit first in Israel and then in the United States. And so you did that. And could you describe a little bit how it came that you ended up teaching dance in Mexico a few weeks ago, and how that experience was?
Yeah, so I think that Claudia was sharing earlier in this conversation how we are actually feel in common over our work, and how we understand that sharing this work is really yeah, it's something that we are it's sort of like we have a drive, like inner drive, that we cannot even explain. We really think that our culture is something that that is so important and so meaningful for the journey, not only of ourselves as choreographer and for the people who work with us, the artists. I think for the rest of the people, the rest of the communities that we sort of work within and feel identified with. I just came back from Corsica right after I was in Mexico, and I feel there is something very, very strong in preserving culture and vehicle and creating culture as a vehicle for transmitting ideas and legacies and identity, like really identity. I was in Mexico first time in my life in 2017, and following the residency program of Claudia in Jerusalem, we were just we could not believe that this is ending, and we just wanted more. So Claudia was thinking of how to invite c.a.t.a.m.o.n in order to present also work in Mexico. And this vision of Claudia, like many other visions of Claudia, has came to life because yes, she's sort of like this magician. And we came to perform in Mexico in 5 different cities, in front of about 2,000 people, 2,000 Mexican who came to see Israeli dance, Israeli contemporary dance in just the end of last month, end of April, in 5 different cities. And actually we shared with Claudia, she was also presenting her work at one of the festivals in Baja California, in 3 different cities or 4 different cities. And we were sharing the same festival somehow.
Well,
And I think one of the things that I can share as a highlight for me in this journey to Mexico was to get to know Claudia's work as a pedagogy, as a teacher, as someone who founded this absolutely amazing, unbelievable school that is producing is not a good word, that is educating dancers who are not only phenomenal dancers but also phenomenal human beings.
Mhm.
I just
And
want to jump in, Elad, if I may, because we're
sure.
almost out of time, and say, besides having you come, Claudia did a master class at the Jerusalem Academy of Music and Dance, and became very close with one of the dance teachers there, Ronan Itzaki. And I think just before you came, Ronan came with a group of dancers from the Jerusalem Academy. And if I understand correctly, there are plans for Claudia's students to come back. And I just like to say, like, Claudia is a magician, and she really embodies the whole ethos of what we're trying to do. And this constant exchange, these relationships going back and forth, is really what this whole program is about. So I'm very grateful. And yeah, and I also wanted to say that in that video, the crew is Israeli, the costume designer is Israeli, and the film got shown in Jerusalem through one of from Jaffa to Agrippa's festival. So the life, it just keeps going.
And the film is getting awards in different festivals around the globe. Oh, that's also really beautiful. Yeah, there's nothing, it's not important. That is not what is important. But it's nice to recognize how a work can touch other cultures as well. Something that was made by a Mexican choreographer and a Mexican filmmaker with a whole production team and artists in Jerusalem. So it's all, it's all how arts, not only dance, but how arts in general, are really the threads that can actually connect people in a humanistic way and allows us to understand the relationships and the world we are living at, which is a total chaos, in a different way.
And
Well,
I know you have to end, but I just want to say that this is all about Jerusalem being an international city, having all the Abrahamic religions. And so bringing people from all these different cultures makes part of the mix even like a better alchemy.
Elise, that's exactly best way to, I think, frame both the fellowship and what it has produced from this interaction. From both Claudia and Elad, we have gained a much deeper insight, not only into your own connection that was created through the fellowship, but also to the artistic paths that each of you are, the artistic journeys that you're on, and how your work has both personal and collective impact in a world that is in need of healing, is in need of imagination and collaboration and possibility, and laughing now and then, being open to lighter things that are happening even in darker moments or more challenging times. And we are so grateful to the three of you for sharing that with us, for sharing this with the broader audience, and starting our summer in this way. For those of you that join us week in and week out, you know, we try to share stories and introduce you to people that you might not read about in your local papers or see in the media, and we will continue to do that because we think these are the most powerful stories that share hope, share enlightenment, share meaning for all of us in hard moments and in joyous moments. So please do come back next Sunday, June 4th. Can you believe it? We're already in June, almost. We will continue a series that we've been doing looking at various Israeli nonprofits through the Israel Legacy. This is our second in that series. We'll be looking at an organization called Manat Chaim and another that works with the Ethiopian community in Israel, both really interesting stories from very, very different sectors that they're involved in. We invite you to be back. We invite you to have a great summer of possibility wherever you may be. And we hope that Israel and Jerusalem will be a part of that in some way. That's our blessing for you today. We hope everyone has a safe and wonderful rest of the day or evening and on Sunday. And we look forward to having you back. Thanks again to all the panelists.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Wayne.
להתראות.